Good morning and welcome to the Up Zone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts, myself, Tisha S. Waddell, former city council representative from the
Thank
third
you.
district in the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and former House representative for the House of Representatives in the state of North Carolina for the 43rd district, Mr. Elmer Floyd. We are joined today. We do have a special guest. We'd like to introduce you to Mr. George Michael Cogdell, known as G. Michael Cogdell. He is a former Bladen County Commissioner in North Carolina who served on the Bladen County Board of Commissioners representing the countywide district. He was first elected in 2012, and in November of 2024 in the general election, he did seek re-election but was not elected to the countywide seat. As a result, he concluded his tenure as a county commissioner. During his time in office, he was known for his commitment to addressing economic disparities within Bladen County and his dedication to public service, education, and business. Mr. Cogdell's extensive experience provided him with a comprehensive perspective on the challenges and opportunity facing Bladen County and very likely the state of North Carolina. His contributions have been significant in shaping the county's policies and initiatives during his years of service. Welcome, Mr. Cogdell.
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Floyd, what announcements do you have for us before we get started talking to Mr. Cogdell?
Well, Tish, let me say, as you know, this coming weekend is a busy weekend for the Martin Luther King program.
Yes.
One, the parade is still going to be this coming Saturday, and the prayer breakfast, the brunch they call it, is going to be Monday from I think it's 10 to 12
Okay.
there. And the city council is going to have their strategic planning on January the 23rd and 24th at the Gilmore Center on, I think it's 1600 Purdue Drive. And
Okay.
the public is invited to sit in on that discussion. And also in February, the County Human Relations Commission is going to have their banquet, but I'll get you the date for that next week. And it's going to be at the Botanical Garden, so they can call the Human Relations Department. I think that number is 910 433 1996. There, if those person who wants to participate, it's an award banquet. And Tish, that program is 50 plus years. It's something that I started as a human relation director when I didn't have this gray hair.
Wow. Congratulations. I also, while you're speaking of the county, I'd also like to congratulate County Commissioner Glenn Adams, who has been appointed to a 13-member commission focused on shaping the future of the North Carolina Central University School of Law. Do you remember, Mr. Floyd, when I was like, there's a rumor that his wife is getting ready to go to North Carolina Central School University School of Law, and we were all wondering if he was going to be stepping down. You remember that?
Yes.
This made me
And
think of that. So we were hearing some murmurings of N. Adams at the North Carolina Central University School of Law. We just didn't. Sometimes that's what rumors do. They'll have you confused and not quite on the mark. So that's why you have to say this is just a rumor. But we do want to congratulate him on that that honor and that distinction. And we look forward to seeing him represent Cumberland County well up there at North Carolina Central University's School of Law and doing what he does best, and that is bridging gaps and bringing people together with information and shaping policy. So congratulations, kudos to you, Commissioner Adams. Mr. Floyd, any other announcements before we wrap up announcements?
no, that is all, Tish. But our guest, as you just mentioned, uh, and we had talked a lot about political action committees, and just so happened I talked with one of our colleagues, and they told us about this particular person and his pact that he have in Bladen County, and serving in the General Assembly for 12 years. I never knew that there were minority pacts in the state.
Okay. So before we jump into talking about PACs, let's very quickly tell our audience what a PAC is. A PAC is a political action committee. They are organized organizations that collect contributions from members or donors to fund campaigns for or against political candidates, ballot initiatives, or legislations. PACs are a common way for interest groups, businesses, unions, or individuals to influence elections and policymaking. There are three types of PACs: traditional PACs, super PACs, and hybrid PACs. We can talk more about that, or I can just post it on our social media. And in North Carolina, there are a plethora of PACs. So, Mr. Cogdell, can you explain the PAC that you're involved with and what their primary purpose in elections are, particularly in North Carolina? Uh-oh, looks like we lost him.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Floyd, while we're
The
waiting on him to come back, let's talk about the different types of PACs. So we've got, again, those three different types of PACs. We've got super PACs, we've got traditional PACs, and we've got the hybrid PACs. So a super PAC is the one that we often hear the most about, right? They're independent expenditures only committees. They cannot donate directly to candidates, but they can spend unlimited amounts independently to support or oppose those candidates. So the super PACs are the ones who are running all those ads, putting out all the pamphlets, because they can spend as much money as they want to in favor or in opposition of a candidate. What do we see? Who controls or manipulates who a super PAC supports? How does that come down the pipeline?
it's a guessing game, Chief.
For us, the public.
Yeah, it's a guessing game because you know they as as an example, some give the money to the PAC, and then they also want to endorse a particular candidate that the PAC support.
Hmm.
So the limit is that if it was a individual, you can give a $6,400 contribution during the primary and a $6,400 contribution during the general election. But if I give it to the PAC, then that PAC can give an unlimited amount of money to that candidate for or against. So, some people refer to that as what I wouldn't call the name is that they prefer to those funding sources, and like you said, there are different PACs, and we experienced that in the last election there with the council of state members, and we really don't understand the importance that PACs play in politics.
Right.
By it gives them somewhat limited access to that particular candidate,
Right.
and
What
and
tell me what you
uh,
mean when you say that, Mr. Floyd? You're saying somewhat limited access to that candidate, but I would think that that would buy unfettered access to a candidate.
well, what I was trying to find a unique word,
Well,
limited,
that's
because
unique.
you know is that he or she, hypothetically, now we just saying, has the cell phone number of that particular candidate as an example, that
Absolutely.
candidate will pick the phone up on him, but that same candidate, Madam Waddell, will talk with you and give you his number or her number, but when your number shows up on his phone, uh, you don't get a call back, but you
Yeah, and
get one during the election process.
chances are if you have a super PAC that's favoring your candidacy, that means that you support something that is important to the collective of that super PAC. And that
Yes.
means that you are probably going to be gung ho for that because you recognize that the influx of resources that they can put into your campaign is literally unlimited. Whereas, like you said, anybody else has a limited contribution capacity that they can put into your campaign, but a super PAC can do this on an unlimited basis. And it doesn't come directly to the candidate, but it most certainly will support or will defame your opposition, support your candidacy or defame your opposition. So when we see these super PACs, they can be very helpful to the candidates, but they're very dangerous also because it's unlimited money for it's propaganda essentially. And we talk a lot about propaganda in other areas, but we don't often talk about it when it comes to super PACs. Now, there's hybrid PACs also that operate as both, and the traditional PAC is affiliated with businesses, labor unions, or issue groups. They can donate directly to candidates, but they are subject to those limited contributions. Now, Mr. Floyd, when you think about the impact or of the influence in North Carolina of the PACs, we've been talking about this for a number of weeks, in that the PACs did not disseminate money to some of the Council of State positions equitably as you would have expected they would have. So, in your opinion, this shifted, and not just in your opinion, but as a statement of fact, this potentially shifted the outcome of some of those elections.
Well, Tish, many people don't understand the importance of the Council of State members and the members of the North Carolina General Assembly as it relates to the governor and his veto override
Mm-hmm.
and the governor's ability to do executive orders. In order for the council of state, in order for the governor to do an executive order, he must have a strong relationship with the council of state members,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that that came about because of the pandemic. Is
Right.
that the Cooper introduced a lot of executive order was not in favor of the party that was in charge of both chambers. So that came into play. So we have to look at it, Teach, from a political standpoint of view. If we intend to support the governor, then we need to look at down the ticket. That's number one, the council of state position, if it's going to do executive order. And well, fortunate and unfortunate, the governor cannot introduce bills into the House or Senate chamber. They must be done by a House or Senate member. So, in order to do that, you need to have a strong council of state with six plus, and you need to have members of the General Assembly that is going to work with the governor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's extremely important, which our community don't see. As an example, Holmes lost by 2 percentage points. So if she could have gotten some of that 40 plus $6 million, then that 2% margin, and we talked about this before, the state board of election may not have been placed in the auditor office to select the council of state. Normally, in past, the person that's in charge of the governor mansion then has 3 members on the board of election and then 2. We don't know how that is going to shape up now with the board of election in the council, in the auditor office. Would it be 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats? But if the council of state, Pat, had to provide those 3 person funds, then it would be somewhat different. Now, Holmes only lost by 2 points, and she got money from the state party, but none. But we talked about this before on our program. Even with a 15-point lead, and the National Governor Association said they was no longer going to fund Robertson campaign, and the North Carolina Republican Party said that they was no longer going to fund his campaign. We still gave him between $7 and $9 million,
Him being Josh Stein.
yes, to his campaign,
Right.
instead of giving that money to other council state members.
And we being the
But
political action committee that was funding the Council of State positions.
yeah, it would have helped them do some mailings
So let's
and
go ahead.
advertisement. Yeah, but we failed to do that. Now, when we look at it, Tish, the governor appointed Holmes, okay, to the auditor position.
Mm-hmm.
The governor was in charge of the money. Now, Morgan Jackson managed the money. And so, what would a reasonable minded person would assume? If my boss, hires someone, do you not think that I'm not going to include him or her in the pay raise?
Well, then let's talk about why that's significant. That is significant because welcome back, Mr. Cogdale. Give us just a moment and we'll clue you in. You can jump right in with us. So that's significant, Mr. Floyd, because there are requirements that ensure transparency, are supposed to ensure transparency and accountability for the PACs in North Carolina. Here's what they are. They're required to register with the North Carolina State Board of Elections. The registration includes providing information about the PAC's officers, purpose, and funding sources. Some of those PACs, as we discussed, do have contribution limits when donating to candidates or committees. For the 2024-2025 election cycle, the limit is $6,400 per candidate per election, primary, general, or runoff. They have reporting requirements. PACs must file regular campaign finance reports with the North Carolina State Board of Elections. So once you go and look at the names of the PACs on the NCSBE, you should be able to look to find their campaign finance reports to see where they spent their money. The reports include details on contributions received, expenditures made, and debts incurred. They also have to have disclosures that ensure the public can track where PAC money comes from and how it is spent. Here's what's interesting. They have a prohibition on coordination. So PACs, especially super PACs, are prohibited from coordinating directly with candidates or their campaigns to maintain independence. Violations of coordination rules can result in penalties or investigations. So the super PAC cannot communicate directly with the campaign, but like you said, it doesn't say they can't talk to the governor, and the governor can't give some information on who he wants to see where. Corporate or union contributions, so corporation and labor unions cannot donate directly to candidates, but they can fund PACs, and they must still adhere to state reporting regulations. There is auditing and oversight through the North Carolina State Board of Education of Elections, and they have to disclose any expenditures separately in their reports to create transparency. They also, just like every candidate has to do, have to have those paid for by disclosures. So when you get a slick in the mail, you should look for that paid for by, and then you can go to the North Carolina State Board of Elections and learn more about that PAC. Campaign finance reports and PAC registrations are publicly available on the North Carolina State Board of Elections, and they are subject to penalties and violations. So, Mr. Cogdale, we essentially would like to know more about the PAC that you are affiliated with and how they function in the state of North Carolina.
Okay, we function as a PAC in Bladen County, but a PAC can have jurisdiction to any county. It's not limited to one county. If another county agrees with the association to endorse or follow the policies and rules of that particular county. But the thing that you find is the most disturbing thing, that there are not many black PACs. We basically deal with the Black PAC Association, PAC situation. And what we come to find out, like during this last election, there was very limited amount of active qualified PACs throughout the rural counties. And you will be amazed that it's a lot of PACs listed in the register, but they're not able to process stuff because they have not kept documentation and records, and they're not qualified. So what they're doing now is looking at PACs from the perspective that we can only do the $6,400, but if you need to be a 501c and also a C4 in order to receive funds from both perspectives, where you can do different types of campaigning and get out the vote efforts and assisting with candidates and endorsing candidates and supporting your constituents and candidates in your area. The governor, like he was saying, had all those funds coming in, and he applied them to some of the agencies that were not very agreeable with the black PACs, but at the same time, they had the $6,400 limitation. And the super PACs were giving the money to him. It was at his discretion as to how he would release those campaign funds.
Mr. Cogdale, what do you attribute the governor's actions to in that regard?
Well, we looked at it when we tried to figure out what was going on with that. We were very concerned that he was still had that massive amount of funds, and that he was not distributing them out to candidates throughout the state, the local Democratic candidates, and like Jessica Holmes and some of the particular ones did not receive any of that funding. But we couldn't figure out why, and we haven't gotten an explanation as to why. But
Has the
it
question
was
been asked
speculated that
directly of the governor? Why?
we had speculated that he was using it for the 2 years coming up to reshift some things because he's seeing the dynamics of what was happening in this last election, that it was just kind of a wash because the Republicans had such a big swallow of money and funding coming down through to handle everything.
Okay.
And what the black PACs have found out, that the funding mechanism is so difficult for us to get money to flow through, and they give a limited amount to each county. And the super PACs, they want to give it to an organization that can reach out to a vast amount of people. So they want it to be structured to someone who can show that they have the ability to provide what they need to do with those resources. And most PACs are only C4s and not C3s, so they can't receive that additional funding from a CPAC to do what those super PACs want done. So now
But
they're
Mr.
saying that if
Mayor,
you're going to be a PAC, now they're asking that if you're going to be a PAC, that for you to be a C3 and a C4. That way
but
you receive all the funding from super PACs and from this regular candidate, state candidates.
they're counting
And
on
the
you.
state
You and
also say
go
again
ahead, I'm
now.
sorry. But they also is counting on minorities in order to prevail during the electoral process. But they don't want to
That's
help fund, and so this is why we want to talk more about the roles in which PACs play in our community. There, when you see the amount of money, and like Madam Waddell said, but if you follow the dollar, you can see very few dollars are then going into the minority community. May it be, for those person providing productions.
But what we found out when we was doing this past time, we tried to get 8 counties to come into a type of agreement in the southeastern part of the state. And when we was looking for those 8 counties to come in to be like a massive group in that region, there were very limited PACs that had the ability to receive funds because the paperwork wasn't in place. The documentation and things from the state did not give them the ability to receive funding. And then a lot of the counties did not have active PACs at all. And we was trying to figure out how to handle that situation. And that's the effort that we have talked with the Black Alliance and saying, hey, you guys need to go out if you're receiving all these funds and get other counties in the state to institute PACs, black PACs, because the voting situation is so minute now. So you need to have those black PACs because the voting margin is so tight. But when you
Mr.
look
Price,
at
I
the
want
black
to ask
PACs,
you a question that might sound like a really ignorant question, but blame it truly on my ignorance and nothing more, nothing less. Because I'm very unfamiliar with this topic. When you talk about a black PAC, do black PACs support black candidates that are both Republican, Democrat, unaffiliated, any of the label or monikers politically, or do they only, in this instance, support black Democrat candidates?
okay, but the PACs that we were looking at, now what we have decided to do, that the black vote is the one that's most sought at. That's one of the most highly sought at votes you want in an election because elections are so close. So what our PAC does is we endorse particular black black individuals that's in our county that can deal with the local efforts. And then we'll take a look at who the state candidates are once they have been sorted out through that primary
So
process.
regardless of party
If it's a Democrat,
affiliation,
yes, regardless of party affiliation, but we look at what's going to be in our best interest. If we feel that the Democrat has our best interest at heart, then that's the way we feel that we need to endorse that candidate. But we bring it to a vote with all the members of the PAC to say which one we want to endorse, and it's a democratic process. And the one that wins, that has the majority votes of that PAC, our PAC, that's who we support. We do it in the democratic process. But normally we support whoever we feel is going to have our best interest. And we look at them when we talk about funding mechanisms, how we're going to get the vote out, whether or not they're going to be able to contribute to our campaigns, whether they're going to listen to our issues that we have. And we ask them to come in and talk with us and make sure that we understand what issues we have and concerns we have before we decide to do that endorsement.
Well,
But what we do, we endorse them.
Let me ask you this question then. There was 4 PACs that endorsed Josh Stein there, and your PAC was one of them, Wake County PAC and Guilford County PAC, and I think it was Durham endorsed Josh Stein there. And that's when I found out that there was minority PACs. In serving 12 years in the General Assembly, I never knew that they were minority PACs, because it's just like with the Democrat Party. In my serving of 12 years in the Democrat Party, they gave me less than $100. Less than $100.
Okay, but here's what the issue is. Black PACs were formulated back years ago, and most of them were called improvement associations. During the Pat McCrory campaign, when you found out how many of those minority black, what they call improvement association PACs that was designed 50 years ago, they used to be all over the state, and they filed suits against all of them for voting irregularity. And that's when you could identify how many black PACs were there during the McCrory era when he lost the election to Roy Cooper. But when we look at black PACs, they are not structured because a lot of the communities don't want the structure because of the dynamics that it takes and the dedication that you have to have in order to do a black PAC. You got to have people that's going to be willing to invest the time, keep the paperwork in place. And that's where they run into trouble with paperwork. If you don't file your paperwork, then you become inactive. You can't receive funding. You have to bring everything back up through the compliance with the department, with the Board of Elections, State Board of Elections. A lot of PACs exist in name. And when you look, it's hundreds of them. But their paperwork, and they have not kept their credentials verified in the state. There's plenty of them. But that was the problem we had. They were not able to receive funding, which was limited to $6,400. But at the same time, they did not have C3s. And they have changed that funding mechanism to where the things that come out from super PACs, they come in wanting to give who you endorsing, but they won't give it to you because it has to be non-partisan and partisan and different restrictions on it. But if you're a C3, you can get out the vote, do certain voting activities, and receive money from super PACs to get that kind of thing done. But you cannot receive it for an endorsement. So there's different ways that those PACs function, and that's what everybody have to understand, how a PAC functions. They don't just go in and say, I'm a PAC looking for money.
Right.
You have to have that PAC organized and structured in a way that it can receive the various types of funding. Because there are limitations on what you can get from each candidate and through each campaign. So you have to have it.
Since we're right next door to you, do you think that Cumberland County should have a PAC or develop a PAC?
We reached out to Cumberland County, and they did not have an active PAC that we could engage to come along with us when we was trying to put together. We were putting together an 8-PAC combination. Cumberland County did not have one that was active. That could
who are the players that you reach out to about that, Mr. Cogdell? When you said we reached out, who?
Well, I talked to Glenn Adams. We talked with Glenn. There's another gentleman over there about their PAC being engaged with the effort. And they came in and the PACs just didn't want to join into that initiative. They were saying they were non-functional. And then you had a lot of disturbance with who was going to be in the PAC, who was going to run the PAC, who was in charge of the PAC. And we tell them you have to run in the process where it's not someone that's in charge, it's a community organization. And you have to have it structured. You have to have it structured where that When you
I see
start
now
looking
that
at it, in order to
I
solidify a black vote, you got to solidify the community.
I understand now what you just said. Yeah, and the key thing that you mentioned that has an effect on our community is who is
Who's
going
gonna
to
be in
be.
charge?
Who's in charge?
Mr.
And see,
Cogdell, and
when
here,
we
I
look
don't know
at
if
that,
you know this, but here in Cumberland County, we have two 911 call centers because our county and our city could not agree on who would be in charge. So both our county and our city have recently built brand new 911 call centers to serve Cumberland County and the city of Fayetteville, only solely because they couldn't agree on who was going to be in charge. Let me ask you this, Mr. Cogdell, because I think you may have a good finger on this. Critics argue that PACs can lead to disproportionate influence by wealthy donors or special interest groups. What's your perspective on this? And are there any notable controversies that you can point to that would support one way or the other your perspective?
but that's the issue that I'm saying. We look at candidates. You like you said, they're gonna come in some with a lot of money, some with not a lot of money. Some of them have funding. You're gonna have funding coming from different areas. But you have to have a pack that look at what's gonna be in your best interest. You can't base it on who's wealthy or who's gonna have that kind of resources. We base it on who's gonna protect our interests, and we sit down and we have it, we talk about it, we debate it, and we decide who's gonna be in our best interest. Donald Trump had plenty of money, but he wasn't in our best interest.
So when
Uh,
you have organizations like the Home Builders Association or the developers in a community or the CEOs of major corporations coming together and they've got unlimited resources essentially, how do we protect our citizenry from being shifted in the way that just benefits those organizations? Because if you've got a PAC that's funded by people with unlimited resources, their best interests are often different than the best interest of the citizens of their community. So how do you balance
what
that when you're talking about PACs?
okay, when you look at a PAC, we have a 501c and we have a C4.
Mm-hmm.
We have an education component, economic component. We have all kinds of different components that serve the community. We involve people that protect our interests solely. If they're not going to look at our best interests, and like right now they said we're not going to build homes and help you develop housing and this thing, why should we worry about their funding? We look at people that can come in if they don't have any funding, but have this ideologically that they're going to help us to advance our cause and help us with our initiatives to make living better in our community. And you got to have people that's committed and that will stand firm. And here's the key to it. Once you show that you can stand firm and you can unite that black vote to follow and stay stern with that organization, then it has power. But if you
Let me
cannot get your community to unite behind that organization structure, there is no power. It's power in the pack only in numbers.
let me
It's
ask you the
how you
question.
unify your community.
In 2020, a similar action occurred from the Council of State PAC. There was three candidates that ran for Council of States. Okay, and Holmes was one of those members, along with Representative Holly out of Wake County for Lieutenant Governor. There, they got limited money from the PAC, the Council of State PAC. And so this year we see four individuals, four PACs that endorse Governor Stein. And it's the same group that managed the money in 2020 that managed the money in 2024. It seems to me that a reasonable minded person would assume that we need to do an evaluation prior to the endorsement.
That was the reason why we decided to get the 4 packs, and we tried to get as many. Mecklenburg didn't come in with, but we tried to get as many packs as we could to solicit it to come in. Like you said, Jessica lost by 2 points. Could you imagine what would have been the effect if Cumberland County, if all the counties in the southeastern part of the state, New Hanover, if that black community had galvanized behind her with the limited resources that PACs had, she would have won
Well,
without a problem.
let me say this
But the
also.
thing is trying to get blacks to come into that PAC with harmony and unity.
Well, let me say
And when
this to
you
y'all.
endorse it,
Let me say this to y'all also. It's how we look at North Carolina, and just stepping outside of the pack for a second and look at Don Davis, who was in District 1 U.S. House seat. The pack,
mhm,
I mean, there was very limited conversation in Don Davis district. The
mhm.
president, the vice president didn't even go into northeastern North Carolina. So we got to start looking at this thing very different. There's a lot of minority population in northeastern North Carolina. But when we start looking at political action group, when we start looking at campaigning, we stay away from northeastern North Carolina, but we say we want the minority participation. Now, explain that to me.
Okay, when the gentleman named he got killed in a boating accident, name was Conan. Conan came in, and I was the president of the North Carolina Association of Black County Officials. And when the Black Alliance had their meeting about 3 years ago, he came in and he gave out some data. And the data that he gave out was that if the percentage of voters in each county are black voters in the southeastern part of the state would increase by 3%, then a whole lot of the House seats and some of this stuff that was gerrymandered, you still could shift those seats if you could get those areas to come together. But in that particular region, there are PACs all over the Pitt County where Don Davis is at. He had a PAC. It's a PAC there in Pitt County. And I talked with Don about his PAC, and their PAC is pretty active because it's one of the improvement associations. And they are very active there in Pitt County. But when we talked about the southeastern part of the state, there is only Don PAC is one, and the Bladen Improvement Association. Common County does not have a viable PAC. Hanover
Do you think
doesn't
we need
have a
one?
viable PAC. Brunswick, yes, you need one. Columbus County, none of those counties have viable black PACs that are functioning. They don't have them. We looked and we found they were not. Most of them were not even active to receive funds.
Why do
I
you think that
tried
is,
my
Mr.
best to get
Cogdell,
8 counties.
in a community that has as much black leadership as Cumberland County? Why do you think that that is?
Who wants to be in charge?
Well, and I'll say this, and
That's where your
also,
problem.
and I think it should raise some questions to the citizenry of the community who's funding the political candidates in Cumberland County, because where's their money coming from if it's not coming from, because I think that there's this illusion that the black leadership in Cumberland County is influenced by the black community in Cumberland County, when the reality is much of the black leadership in Cumberland County is funded through the Home Builders Association, through the Realtors Association, through the developers, and many of those organizations don't look like the three of us on this platform, and don't really have the same concerns that we may think are important in our community as they may think are important in our community. And I don't say that to disparage those organizations, because oftentimes I think that there needs to be some balance between what we think and what we think others think. But I say that to say that the people should pay attention to that, because what you're saying, Mr. Cogdell, is that black PACs are important when it comes to electing representation that is considering the consequence of the impact of legislation on our community. But I'm saying that's apparently not happening based upon what you're saying.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. What you have to do with that and how you alleviate that problem. When you look at the demographics in Fayetteville, in Cumberland County, you can look at the demographics and say, how would you secure black positions and how would they come out? How many could you put in place? A lot of it is not based on the economics, based on the demographics. If you look at the demographics and the black turnout as how many blacks you can get to the polls, you can shift that. That's the reason why they will fund money to black candidates, because they don't want you to formulate a pack that's consistent to change the demographic on how the votes come out. If you get the vote turnout and not demographic structure, you can shift the power structure of what happens in your county. That's the reason why they keep flowing to different candidates and say, "Oh, I'll support you because I build homes and I do this," because they don't want you to change that demographic. Because when you do that, the board reflection gonna change. Everything gonna change because your board structure is gonna change at the highest level.
Well, let me say
Understand
this.
how a PAC works.
We, and we talk about PACs, but one of the things that the minority community have, and what you just mentioned there about how PACs work, we vote on how well we like you. We don't care if you can't deliver water to the well. We will vote for you. Now, that's what I'm saying now. You can't deliver water to the well, but we will vote for you. And when we look at the track record, when we look at our Board of Education, we look at the county Board of Commission, we look at the city council, we look at the Board of Education, just found out the tourist board. We have a wealth of elected minority officials.
Everybody.
But when we look around and we look at economic opportunities, I borrowed Miss Waddell glasses just to try to see them. Okay.
What I'm saying is, am I still with you guys?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What you need to look at when you're doing this, and this one thing with the PAC. The PAC has.
We lost him. I hate that we lost him because I think that was a very fruitful conversation. Mr. Floyd, I'm gonna tell you what I got from that conversation. I understand that what he just said, PACs support who supports them. And that's why this conversation is so important. And that's why people need to go to the North Carolina State Board of Elections to see who is behind these PACs and these super PACs, to understand who is supporting the candidates that are being elected, so we can know, because he said it, PACs give money to people that are 10 toes down with their initiatives. Are you able to move forward? It's important to us.
Well, that's what they do, Tish. They said that, I remember a person across the aisle when I first came to Raleigh. He said that those that help me when I'm out, they can call me anytime and reach me and have me to work towards their goal. If they give it to me once I win, I give them my LA telephone number.
Right.
If they don't help me at all, I provide somewhat good government. Now, remember what I said now.
Yeah.
Somewhat good government. This is what a person across the aisle shared with me when I arrived in Raleigh in 2008. And that's what is happening to the African American community. We are getting somewhat good government.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mr. Floyd, there are about 4 other topics that we have on our agenda today. And I don't know that we're going to get to them, but I want to mention all of them. And then we'll talk about what we can, and what we can't get to, we'll talk about next week. So the first thing that's on our agenda is the now this is interesting, the launch for the search for the new police chief. And then we have also the city engineers defend their plan to mitigate widespread flooding in the Locks Creek community. And then we have to talk about the separate Fayetteville schools conversation that Councilmember Mario Benavente is bringing forward. And then finally, the CCS board wants more choices to handle the superintendent search. Well, maybe not. Yeah, finally. So, Mr. Floyd,
let's look at both of those together then, Tish.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the superintendent search and the police chief search. So the superintendent search is handled by the Board of Education, and the police chief search is handled by the city manager's office, because it's the city manager's job to hire a new police chief.
Wait a minute now, Tish.
Okay.
Wait a minute now, Tish. I got a different with you, on this.
Okay.
This new search involves the city council?
Well, the city manager did indicate that he was going to seek input from the city council so that he could make sure that the new police chief was in line with what the council was looking for.
My concern with you on this again, I hate to disagree with you. I want to maintain your.
No, you're not disagreeing because I got an answer for your question.
Okay. Then if the city manager is going to hire a personnel director, is he then going to consult with the city council to see about this?
Probably not. But here's the difference. We've not run off in the city of Fayetteville 2 personnel directors in the last 3 years. We have run off 2 police chiefs. And I'm going to say run off because this was completely unexpected for Chief Kimberly Braden to be exiting his position so quickly. And we saw with the previous police chief, she left. And not only did she leave, but she turned around and filed a lawsuit against the members of the city council, against the city of Fayetteville, and was awarded a what's it called when you don't go? She was awarded a settlement. Correct. They settled with her. So that says to me that we, the people, we really need to be asking some questions about what's going on between our council and our police department, particularly the head of that police department, the chief of police, because there's something not right in the water, Mr. Floyd. Real quick, I meant to say this during the announcements. I want to shout out Courtney Banks McLaughlin, because I noticed a day or so ago that she is now following our podcast. So I would like to say hello to Councilwoman Courtney Banks McLaughlin, and just a quick wave and a nod. I appreciate you, and we appreciate the follow. But back to what I was saying, Mr. Floyd, there's something going on that we need to know in the community.
I don't think I'm saying, Ms. Waddell, I spent 20 years in EEOC.
Yes.
Okay. What we always say, what a reasonable-minded citizen would assume is when you say that I'm going to get input from the council, in a selection process, what a reasonable-minded person would assume. And like in the search process, do we need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a search team when we may look at within? And the same thing with the Board of Education. With one thing the consultant said to the Cumberland County Board of Education, if you're going to look within, let us know before we do this large search.
Well, let me tell you, there's I'm not going to say any names just yet until if I hear this person in the top 10. But there's one person from within that I'm really rooting for and pulling for, because I think that he would make an excellent chief of police. Now, to your point, the city manager may consult with the city council. As a matter of fact, I think he said he was going to understand community concerns and priorities. And the reason that's given is to ensure that the selected police chief aligns with both administrative goals and public expectations. This collaboration should help to maintain
administrative goals.
I know, Mr. Floyd.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the goal is to maintain transparency and public trust in the selection process, but we don't trust the Fayetteville City Council. And I don't know about our audience, and I don't even know about you. I'm just going to say me. I don't trust the Fayetteville City Council. Any agency that will not audit themselves or subject their members to a review of an external agency of their actions based upon legitimate.
Now, Tisha, you still upset?
I'm not upset.
Because the guy had a conversation with a council member. Okay, and at the end of the conversation, the guy said, "You can talk to my attorney." Okay.
But this is a repeated history with this board that they are accused of unscrupulous, unethical behavior, and they refuse to submit themselves to an external investigation. And that's why we don't trust the Fayetteville City Council.
Come on, teach the man had a conversation and he talked with him.
But if somebody accused you of an unethical action and you know you didn't do it, would you not submit yourself to an investigation based upon the fact that you know you didn't do it?
But the ethics committee found nothing wrong.
Bump that committee. So anyway, bump that committee.
I'm just saying, I mean, but the ethics
But
committee,
the ethics committee had a member of the ethics committee who violated ethics. So you tell me how ethical the ethics committee is.
I'm just saying, Tish, even with what you just mentioned, the ethics committee may not have legal, but it is an advisory board, and that after it looks at the facts, can, whether it receive or not, Tish, whether it's received or not, to make a recommendation.
Well, moving right along, Mr. Floyd, the Cumberland County Board of Education is expanding its search for a new superintendent following Dr. Marvin Connolly Jr.'s retirement announcement effective July 1st, 2025. So initially considering the NC School Boards Association to lead the search, the board now seeks additional proposals to ensure a transparent and comprehensive selection process. Again, we see that word transparent.
The same, Tish. If they're going to hire within, why spend taxpayer money? Okay.
It's all about maintaining the appearance of transparency.
Okay, I got you now.
It's all about maintaining the appearance of transparency. So the North Carolina School Board Association is an organization that provides support and services to school boards across North Carolina, including assistance in superintendent searches. And I think it's not only, and let me say this, I don't think it's just about the appearance of transparency. I also think it's about the fact that you got to remember these boards are made up of elected individuals, both the city council and the school board, who often have opposing viewpoints of what something should be. So because of that, they need a third party mediator, because you got to remember the city manager is hired and fired by the city council. So if he pisses them off in this police search, that could be the end of his job. So he needs a buffer between him and them.
I'm still saying to you, Tish, and I say to you tomorrow too when I see you, the city council has two persons, but like what you said. Okay, two persons and that they supervise, and they provide the day-to-day operation to the city manager, and the day-to-day operation meaning that the police chief, the fire chief, the sanitation chief, the bus chief, the airport director, and all down there is the day-to-day operation. And therefore,
I submit to you, Mr. Floyd, that our former chief of police, and this is my belief, only my belief. So we'll say I'm alleging. I still allege that the former chief of police announced her retirement in the manner that she did because of the pressure that the city council was putting on the city manager to fire her, or they would fire him. And that is illegal. That is still illegal based upon our North Carolina. Yes, sir.
Well, I salute Madam Hawkins.
Absolutely.
Because she was able to retire from the city of Fayetteville and draw a nice North Carolina pension
and get a settlement.
Plus get a settlement. So I salute her.
Absolutely. And I salute Marvin Connolly for his excellence in service to our school system. Mr. Floyd, our schools are in trouble, not just here in Cumberland County, but across the nation. And I think that the lack of resources, the lack of teachers, like all of these things are going to come to a point and place a fracture on what we've got going on. Very quickly, Mr. Floyd, the city engineers are defending, well, while we're talking about the schools, let's just go right into Mario Benavente. So Mario Benavente has established his position that he believes that there should be a separate school district for Cumberland County and the city of Fayetteville. He proposed revisiting this idea that we used to have back in about 1980, before 1985, when the school merged and just formed Cumberland County school systems. And he believes that a city-run district could better address urban educational challenges. However, there are some concerns that are raised by some members of this community, to include Myron Pitts, the editor of the Fayetteville Observer, in a recent opinion piece that he wrote. Mr. Floyd, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, Tish, I think that you have to stop and pause. Do I want to inherit a multi-billion-dollar enterprise? And I'll leave it at that.
Well, and the reality is, it's not up to the city council. The city council can request it, but they would have to go to the North Carolina General Assembly, because state legislators would need to approve any changes to the current school district structure. because they hold the authority over such reorganizations. So given that information, I'm gonna say this. It would have to be, you know this, Floyd. Anytime an organization brings something before the North Carolina General Assembly, we're first of all looking for it to be unanimous. If the Fayetteville City Council cannot get all 10 of its members, so this is what I want to say to the community: don't get too wrapped up in this conversation. If the city council cannot get all 10 of its members to agree that this is a good idea in order to submit it up to the state, it's going nowhere.
It also had to be approved by the Board of Education,
Unanimously.
County Board of Commissioners, and also the citizen.
And you
But
would
if I
need
was gonna
unanimous from all three of those boards before the North Carolina General House, the general legislator would even assemble it, would even consider this.
But now you also got to take into consideration that the Rocky Mount Edgecombe County is looking at the same, so they might be able to file a local
joint bill.
Yeah, a local bill, which consists of 15 or less communities. But now, if I was a Glenn Adams on the county board of the commission, or Kirk DeVille on this,
Who's gonna be in charge of it?
I would gladly
Let you have
support
it.
you.
Can I tell you though, that's Glenn's MO. That's Commissioner Adams, his MO. You want it, you got it. We saw it with the homeless conversations. That's how the city ended up building the Day Resource Center, because he is smart in that he understands if you want to take this from us and you think you can do it better, yeah. But guess what they don't do? They're not giving up whatever money they have. They're not giving up
19% of their $606 million budget, on which you look at 20%, I'm rounding off, 20% of $606 million. I can use that to help fund my convention center. And I think it's about our time, Tisha.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about Locks Creek and the other items next week. But I'll say this, Mr. Floyd, before we go, as we did just state, the city council's proposal will require collaboration with the County Board of Education to assess the impact on existing schools and resources. And both bodies would need to engage with the General Assembly to obtain the necessary legislative approval for any structural changes. And I'm going to just say that's a high hill to climb. So we will see how that goes. I know that you all are going to have Mr. Benavente on your podcast. Tell the audience where they can listen to that conversation.
Tomorrow he will be on WIDU at around 8 o'clock to discuss his concept of why he thinks that it's a good idea to look at the city returning back to its own school. So we want to hear his thoughts on that.
Straight from the horse's mouth. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Floyd, what you want to leave our audience with?
Please look at your political action groups and see how the effect that they have on the minority community.
And understand, and I'll say this in tandem with that, understand how political action communities truly shape legislation, because they don't just support people to get them elected. They support them to get them elected so that they can do their bidding to perform the work that is important to the political action committee. So know who these people are and how they operate. Again, you can go to the North Carolina State Board of Elections to find more information on the political action committees in the state of North Carolina. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to myself or Mr. Floyd, and we will be happy to point you in the right direction. Mr. Floyd, I just want to tell everybody that in this season, the Lord is calling me to a level of obedience that I've never been called to before. So I want to tell each of you, I say this all the time, you better know who you serve, and you better be prepared to obey the one you serve, because obedience truly is better than sacrifice. I don't want your sacrifice, says the Lord. I want you to obey me. So with that being said, I hope that everybody will like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend to tell a friend. And Mr. Floyd, they can catch us on the next episode, right?
Right.
Okay, now let me figure out how to get us on out of here. And that's what we're going to do. Hang on just a second, because for some reason, I don't know what I'm doing today. Here we go. Drive safely, sir, and have a wonderful day.
What time is it, P? What time is it?
Huh?
What time is it?
10:33.